Negeri Sembilan. To most people, it's just a place you drive past on your way from KL to Malacca. Maybe you have stopped at one of its giant R&R stations, grabbed a box of siu pao, or even heard of colleagues commuting daily from Seremban to work in KL. And that's about it. It's so close to Kuala Lumpur, yet for the longest time, people saw it as nothing more than a boring town. But here's the twist, despite being the 9th largest state in Malaysia, Negeri Sembilan has been quietly growing faster than the country as a whole, expanding at a CAGR of 5.8% since 2015, beating the national average of 5.6%. And it is also the home to all the big brands, Coca-Cola, F&N, Yakult and so many more. And even the world's largest Milo factory is also based in Negeri Sembilan. And big developers have taken notice. Sunway, EcoWorld, Sime, they are all slowly shifting away from city centers and now expanding their projects in Negeri Sembilan. So, what exactly changed and why are big players now betting on Negeri Sembilan? Back in the 1970s, Negeri Sembilan was one of the poorest states in Malaysia with a poverty rate of over 40%, a stark contrast to the 4.4% recorded in recent years. And this means that back in the days, 4 in 10 people had income levels below the poverty line. Basically, they were struggling to even meet their daily basic needs. And a big reason for this lies in Negeri Sembilan's geography. You see, with its mountainous interior and also fertile valleys, their economy in the early days was largely driven by agriculture such as rubber tapping, rice and oil palm plantations, and also tin mining. And the government also stepped in by rolling out FELDA schemes to help rural families move into structured plantations. So it's clear, Negeri Sembilan's foundations were deeply rooted in agriculture. And while these sectors added a lot of economic value to the nation in the early development days, unfortunately, these were labor-intensive sectors that brought little technology advancements or even wealth distribution. In the meantime, other states like Selangor, Penang and Johor were already beginning to embrace industrialization in the 1970s. Penang, for example, established its Bayan Lepas Free Industrial Zone in 1972, a move that transformed its economy by attracting many MNCs and later turned Penang into the Silicon Valley of the East. If you're interested in a deeper dive, do check out our previous video over here. But everything slowly changed with the expansion of the Klang Valley, KLIA and even North-South Expressway, and that's when Negeri Sembilan attracted more and more investments into it. Quick pause, if you want to take advantage of Negeri Sembilan's growth with projects by listed companies such as Sunway, EcoWorld and Sime, you can do just that with the sponsor of today's video, Moomoo, a SC Malaysia regulated and licensed platform that supports trading for Malaysia and also international stocks. And they give you all the tools that you need for investing. For example, their heat map gives you a visual snapshot of which sectors are heating up or even cooling down. Green is obviously trending up, and red means trending down. And they also have all these other features like economic calendar, company financials and institutional tracker to help you make better informed investment decisions. And fees wise, very cheap. Moomoo Malaysia offers 0 commission fees for the first 6 months and charges you only 3 ringgit platform fees per order. And with just one single app, you get to have access to different markets. So, if you want to buy, say, Tesla stock from the US, or REITs from Singapore, or even just local Bursa stock like Sunway Group, all can be done in just one app. Feel free to deposit with my exclusive code Z11, that's Z11, to get amazing sign-up rewards while the campaign lasts. From 2015 to 2024, Negeri Sembilan's GDP expanded from 40.2 billion ringgit to 54.3 billion ringgit. And this growth was mainly from the services and manufacturing sectors, which together accounted for over 90% of the state's total GDP. And services led the way, contributing 52.8% of GDP, with key industries including utilities, transport, storage, ICT and so on. And manufacturing followed closely at 37.6%, driven primarily by electrical, electronics and optical products. From January to July 2025, the first 6 months, the state recorded a strong export performance, posting a 10.2% year-on-year growth, and it was also among the 7 states that registered positive trade growth, contributing a total of 219.4 billion ringgit to Malaysia's total trade value in April 2025. And back in 2024 alone, Negeri Sembilan secured 7.25 billion ringgit in investment, representing 2% of total FDIs made in the country. And of these, 46.9% involve high technology projects, and that's a sign of growing international confidence in the state's potential. And while it's still considered the early days for the state, Negeri Sembilan should not be underestimated, as it contributes 5.3% to the nation's total manufacturing output, ranking 5th nationally in 2024, just behind Johor at 12% and Sarawak at 10%. And with the government's push to move Malaysia further up the global value chain, Negeri Sembilan's role in high-tech manufacturing and exports is only set to grow further. So that begs the question, what exactly is powering this growth in Negeri Sembilan? Well, it all traces back to a major development initiated over a decade ago, the MVV, or short for Malaysia Vision Valley. Launched during ex-PM Najib Razak's administration, MVV was envisioned as an economic extension of the Greater Kuala Lumpur, aimed at transforming the Southern Corridor into a thriving hub of industry and investment. And even after Barisan Nasional's defeat in the 2018 general election, the core vision behind MVV didn't fade. The current government continues to build and elevate the project under a new name, MVV 2.0, and this updated blueprint aligns closely with other national plans such as the New Industrial Master Plan 2030 and focuses on high technology industries, digitalization, and attracting high value investments, all with a long-term vision spanning 30 years. And if this is your first time hearing about this, the MVV 2.0 spans an area of 1,534 square kilometers across Seremban and Port Dickson, nearly double the size of Singapore. And the developments are structured around 6 core parcels: the high-tech industrial park, the smart county, Aerospace Valley, integrated maritime hub and waterfront corridor, smart AI container port, and Semiconductor Valley. And all 6 of these parcels are already seeing early stage development as you are watching this video. And if you have driven along the Plus Highway from KL towards Malacca, especially around the NILAI and Seremban stretches, you might even notice a massive construction site on your left hand side, and that's Hamilton NILAI City, a new industrial township currently being developed by the Samdabi Property Group. And this 2,723-acre development is expected to drive direct investments into Negeri Sembilan's MVV 2.0 by attracting businesses seeking efficient production or warehousing options outside the Klang Valley region. And in addition to that, NILAI is also set to house a brand new 1 billion ringgit automotive hub with showrooms, spare parts outlets, service centers, and automotive care facilities. And while this project will attract global automotive brands to come in, it also allows local companies to be part of the automotive supply chain. So creating not just job opportunities, but opportunities for local companies to grow even bigger. And not far from there, in Bandar Anstek, a town nearby KLIA, is already home to major names like Coca-Cola, Dutch Lady, and Farm Fresh. And the area also secured 420 million ringgit in new investments, expected to create around 2,000 new jobs, a clear signal that the momentum is picking up in the state. And if you've heard about the news of Sunway entering Negeri Sembilan, yes, it's happening. They are there to help shape the future of Seremban with a massive 2.2 billion ringgit transit-oriented development (TOD) right beside the Seremban KTM station. And this project is called Sunway Seremban Central, for which the first phase will be expected to launch in the third quarter of 2026. And a TOD is basically a city planning concept that focuses on building homes, offices, shops, and public spaces around public transport stations, just like what we've seen with KL Central. And it improves connectivity, reduces traffic, and creates a more convenient and livable city. And for Negeri Sembilan, this project is a major step forward to become a truly modern city. And fun fact, the internationally renowned hotel brand Marriott is also making a move into Seremban with the upcoming Aloft Hotel, which has a younger lifestyle-oriented concept. Perhaps they are also anticipating a rise in travel to Seremban, hence the early entry. Now, some of you might be wondering, if you are talking about greater KL expansion, why go south towards Negeri Sembilan but not go north towards Perak, right? Places like Kuala Kubu Baru are roughly the same distance from Kuala Lumpur as parts of Negeri Sembilan, about 60 kilometers away. Well, fair question, because I had the same question also. If I were to make an educated guess, the answer lies in one key location: KLIA in Sepang, which sits in the south of KL, much closer to Negeri Sembilan. Now, what if KLIA had landed in Hulu Selangor instead? Things could have looked very different. In fact, back in the 1900s, there were even rumors that Malaysia's main international airport might be built in Hulu Selangor instead, and that rumor fueled a property boom in Lembah Beringin near Kuala Kubu Baru, a township that many believe would take off, much like Seremban 2 is doing today. But as we all know, that didn't happen. KLIA ended up in Sepang, and the Northern Corridor never got its moment. And if KLIA had been built in Hulu Selangor instead, it's quite likely Negeri Sembilan wouldn't be enjoying the spotlight it has today, attracting investments like the 650 million ringgit expansion from Safran Landing Systems, a world leader in aircraft landing and braking systems from France, or even the $40 million, approximately about 170 million ringgit investments by NAVCO, a Taiwanese giant in aerospace fasteners and precision machining components. And beyond the advantage of being near KLIA, Negeri Sembilan also has something that Klang Valley folks are familiar with: Port Dickson. Being the closest beach to the city, it is arguably the most well-known seaside escape for Klang Valley residents. But beyond its role as a holiday spot, the state government has bigger ambitions for PD. The plan is to transform it into a waterfront economic hub, blending tourism and logistics. And on that note, a Port Dickson free zone is expected to kick off development in the second quarter of 2026, with the expectation of attracting more investments from major global industrial companies and eventually becoming a high-tech industrial hub. And on top of that, an agreement has already been signed to build an AI-powered smart container port, a first of its kind in Malaysia, that is not only able to analyze traffic data, demand, and the latest trends, but also increase efficiency as well as reduce human error and accidents. Whether or not this materializes remains to be seen. Anyways, here's something worth noting. PD is already home to some of the largest power plants in Malaysia, including the 2000 megawatt GMA Project 3B power plant and also the Tuanku Jaffa PD power plant. So the infrastructure to support such an ambitious port development might already be in place. And if the smart port succeeds, PD could soon become Malaysia's first AI integrated automated seaport, potentially easing the heavy load in Port Klang and placing Negeri Sembilan firmly on the global logistics map. And just like Johor, Negeri Sembilan is also establishing its place in Malaysia's growing semiconductor sector. In Senawang, Seremban, Samsung SDI Energy is investing 7 billion ringgit for its first EV battery cell manufacturing facility, a huge move that puts the state on the global EV supply chain map. And Samsung isn't the first one. The state is also home to other semiconductor giants like NXP, a Dutch multinational, and onsemi, a US-based tech company that supplies semiconductors. And to strengthen its position further, Negeri Sembilan is also actively attracting more companies in chip testing, packaging, and EV-related supply chains, in line with Malaysia's national semiconductor strategy. And all of this has been made possible through their strategic incentive plan, such as the Fast Lane Approval Program, which shortens projects planning cycles from 24 months to just 14 months, coupled with a fast digitalization in the state itself. And in fact, Negeri Sembilan was the first state to complete Phase 1 of Jendela, successfully expanding 4G coverage across all populated areas, creating the digital infrastructure needed to support high-tech industries. Now, outside of the 6 core parcels, Negeri Sembilan is also riding the wave of Malaysia's data center boom. Google has appointed Gamuda Group to build a Google-linked hyperscale data centers in PD with an estimated of 1 billion ringgit worth of development work. And what makes this even more strategic is that the project includes a 65 million liters per day water treatment facility, with 25% of that allocated for domestic use, a clear win for both industry and community. And when it comes to data centers, we can't ignore the elephant in the room: power demands. And lucky for Negeri Sembilan, the state government is already laying the groundwork to meet it. Under the Corporate Green Power Program (CGPP), at least 2 mid-sized solar farms are currently being developed in the state. And meanwhile, Malakoff is also constructing a new combined cycle gas turbine (CCGT) plant in Dickson with a projected capacity of 1,400 megawatts, which is enough to support around 2.8 million households. Now, outside of MVV 2.0, agriculture remains a key pillar of Negeri Sembilan's economy as well. In fact, it is the third largest contributor to the state's GDP, accounting for 6.3%, and in 2024, it recorded the highest growth at 9.8%, outpacing even manufacturing and service sectors. And one of the stand-up projects in this sector is FNN's 1.8 billion ringgit high-tech dairy farming investments in Gemas. And this is not your ordinary farm. This farm is designed to become one of the largest integrated dairy operations in the region, with 20,000 cows producing up to 200 million liters of fresh milk every single year. Now, here's why this matters. Malaysia still relies heavily on imported dairy products. Based on official data, our fresh milk self-sufficiency level is about 62%, which means we still import the remaining 38% to meet local demand. And our local demand for dairy continues to rise rapidly at about 7.2% annually, thanks to growing consumer trends and even the booming cafe culture. I mean, just look at Zeus Coffee celebrating their 1,000th store. So, projects like FNN's Gemas Mega Farm are crucial for improving Malaysia's food security, reducing dependency on imports, and meeting this rapidly expanding appetite for fresh milk. And with all these master plans in motion, the state is targeting high with a target GDP growth of 8.1% CAGR by 2045, supported by 294 billion ringgit in investments and creating over 600,000 new jobs. And whether the state can hit that target remains uncertain. For perspective, even Penang, often hailed as Malaysia's tech powerhouse, is only projecting a 5.8% best case GDP growth by 2030. Besides, currently, Negeri Sembilan's population is about 1.2 million, and based on a projected annual population growth of 4.1%, the population could rise to 2.7 million by 2045. So, if the labour force participation rate, or the LFPR, holds steady at 67.1%, this would result in a potential labour force of around 1.8 million, an increase of approximately 1 million workers. And under this scenario, the creation of 600,000 jobs appears achievable. However, if population growth continues at its current pace of just 1.5% annually, before accounting for the outflow of talents towards the city centres, the state's population would only reach roughly 1.6 million by 2045. And at that rate, the labour force would only expand by about 300,000, falling short by 300,000 workers to meet the ambitious job creation goal. And not to mention, wages in the state are less competitive, with median salary of 2,500 ringgit, below the national average of 2,800 ringgit, and significantly lower than KL's 4,000 ringgit and Selangor's 3,100 ringgit. So, while the numbers show potential, the real test lies not just in the state's ability to execute its plan, but also in its capacity to attract enough people and improve wage competitiveness, especially with KL just next door offering much more attractive alternatives. But that said, because it is still a developing state, one clear advantage of living in Negeri Sembilan is its relatively lower cost of living compared to KL. And you can still find landed double-story homes priced below 600,000 ringgit over there, something that's nearly unheard of in the Klang Valley today. I mean, Even R1,000,000 in PJ barely gets you a 30-year-old house, and you will still need to spend at least another few R100,000 more to just fix it up. Yeah, it's that bad. That said, the affordability in Negeri Sembilan may not last forever. In 2025, NS recorded one of the highest inflation rates in the country at 1.9% year-on-year, higher than both Selangor's 1.8% and the national average of 1.5%. The main culprit? Food and beverages. The state posted the highest F&B inflation among all states at 3.4% in third quarter. Meanwhile, the restaurant and accommodation category, essentially eating out, rose by 4.3%, making it the second highest in Malaysia. Kinda ironic for a state that houses many of these F&B powerhouses, right? Now, here's something worth thinking about as well. Many people living in Negeri Sembilan still work in KL, which means they bring home Klang Valley level income, and that may explain why residents can still absorb rising prices in F&B. For now, because if the local development couldn't keep up with the demand from the working class, then even the KL level income, especially for those who commute, it could also mean Negeri Sembilan risks becoming a state where people sleep but don't spend over there. Anyways, Negeri Sembilan is changing, and if everything goes according to plan, it might not be the same state we once knew. If it really becomes the next Selangor, would you, Klang Valley folks, consider moving over there? And to those already living in Seremban, how do you feel about all these change? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.